there, Brandy Joy here. We're going to talk about tarot cards and specifically predicting the future. If you want to read tarot cards and you want to be able to get advice about your potential future and to understand what might be coming up, I'm going to tell you a little bit about that today. I'm going to tell you how to predict the future, how it works, why it doesn't work for some people sometimes, and a little bit of insight and secrets that you might not have heard about before, because a lot of people are afraid to read cards, especially about the future. And I want to help you out with that fear and give you some confidence in reading, because really tarot cards can predict the future. It's coming from you, and the more intuitive you are, the more you work with that, with your psychic senses, the more that you can actually see potential outcomes that are actually real. So if you're afraid of it, or you think that, maybe it's not real, give it a try. And I'll tell you what, when I read cards, I know that it's telling me the truth. The cards don't lie. And if you know the cards, you get in touch with the cards, and you have a strong connection to the cards, you can see the potential future outcomes. And the thing is, when you read the cards, so let's say I'm pulling some cards here, I have, for instance, 3 cards I'm looking at, right? And I'm like, okay, so what's going to happen next week involving my relationship or involving the project I'm working on, whatever it might be, right? So I'll look at these 3 cards and I'll say, all right, this is where it's going based on the decisions that are being made right now, the way people are thinking, the mindsets, and the energy right now, okay? So the universe operates in yin-yang energy, or yin-yang energy, you can call it. It's the masculine and feminine. It's the 2 polarities, duality. And they're like zeros and ones, right? So when you work with these energies, right, they're now set on a path, right? Something's set on a path, the way that it's working. Maybe you're arguing with your lover, right, or your partner. Maybe you're having an argument and you're like, all right, let me pull the cards. And you pull 3 cards and it looks really bad, right? You're like, oh my goodness, it looks like we're gonna break up. It looks like, this is gonna go badly. Well, yeah, you're arguing. And if you're not working on it, then it's gonna tell you, hey, this is where it's going. But then if you pull a clarifying card, you're like, okay, so let's say that I decide that I'm gonna work on this with this person. I'm gonna now go and apologize. Pull another card or pull a couple of cards, and then you'll see, oh, it could change, right? It could shift. Now, it depends on the relationship. Some relationships just aren't meant to be a long term. So, for instance, if you're in a relationship where it's going to end, it's just not fated to be a long-term relationship, it's not the right match, then you're going to pull cards about leaving. And it's just how it is. I know I've been in multiple relationships in the past that were like, oh, this is just, it's not going to happen. Eventually it's just going to end. And one in particular, I remember back when I was learning the cards, about 20 years ago, I remember I was so freaked out because I started getting really good at the cards, and then I pulled on my relationship. And I was like, oh my God, I'm gonna leave. Why would I leave? I'm with this person, why would I leave? But I kept seeing that I was going to leave. And finally, things just broke down, and I was like, oh my God, the cards were right. And I didn't make my decision based on the cards at all. I just thought maybe I just wasn't very good at it, and I just kept seeing something that maybe I just didn't want to see. But eventually, I remember I went to a psychic at the time, and she was like, she said, oh, you're gonna leave this person. And I was like, oh my God, the cards are saying that. I know, what is happening, right? But it happened, it did. Naturally, it happened later. We were together for a few years, but the cards will warn you. And I saw that for a year coming. I kept trying to make it change. I was like, okay, I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna work on the relationship or something. But we were getting along. It wasn't like, we were having any real big problems that were prevalent or anything like that. It just wasn't the right match for a long-term commitment. Yes, that's true. I know a lot of people go, well, you could be with anybody you want. I'm sorry, but that's just not true. Being in this field for 20 years now, seeing predictions, seeing potentials, certain people are your potential mates. because you have certain contracts, soul contracts and karmic contracts with them. And yes, those are potentials. You don't have to stay with those people. You could move on to another one. But there are people that sometimes you get involved with that you're not meant to be with for very long. You're meant to come across each other, maybe for a little period of time, or, you could get together for a little while, but it wouldn't really work out in the long term because you have soul contracts with other people. Right. And you can see your soul contracts if you start really pulling cards. You can see a lot of like, hey, why am I with this person? And then you can pull cards and you can see, hey, it's about this relationship that we had in a past life. You could really get into detail, especially if you get good at reading. You could also look at the astrology charts. And for instance, I remember I was with someone, another person, and I thought the relationship was really good and I thought it had a lot of potential. And then I went to a big astrology conference and we had, I think, about 60 people in a room, and our charts were put up as examples of a relationship, and they put our charts, and every astrologer in the room of 60 yelled, "No, that won't work." They all started saying this, "No, like, look at this, look at that, blah, 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 it won't work." And I'm just like, are y'all crazy? But they were right. They were right. And after I found out later that, this person really wasn't being upfront with me about how they felt about the relationship and the way things were going, and then things started coming up, and it just did not work out in that way. We became great friends, but it wasn't the right partnership. And astrology, tarot, all of these divination systems, they can show you the potential future. They can show you, hey, is this a potential long-term commitment? Is this a more short-term, and why am I in this relationship? You can see all of that information, and it's wonderful when you can see it. It can be heartbreaking too, because you could, really fall in love with somebody and think, oh, this would be great. And then you see something in the cards or in the astrology or whatever it might be you're using. There's a lot of divination systems. And then you just say, wow, you know what, this doesn't have long-term potential. It just doesn't. Because really it can predict, it can show you the future. It can show you the likely outcomes. And, there are a lot of different possible outcomes for a lot of things, especially when it comes to relationships and partnerships and stuff, because you might have something specific that you need to learn, or maybe the other person has to learn, or it could just be an experience. Maybe you need to experience something with that type of person, or they need to experience something or learn something about setting boundaries, or it could be a lot of different things. It could just be that you're very attracted to each other because you knew each other in a long ago past life, and now that reconnect just kind of came back up when you saw each other, and it was like, oh wow, like I remember that feeling, right? So anyways, I do a lot of you can tell I do a lot of relationship readings for people, because that's really the heart of life, right? Everybody is very, that's a very important part of life, relationships. And that's why I like to use that as an example. It's always a good one, because a lot of people will think, oh, I can be with whoever I want. No, I'm sorry, I wish I could say that's true, but you have free will, but you also have soul contracts, and you also have, if you look at your chart, you can see a lot of things about yourself and about other people that will tell you about your life purpose, their life purpose. It can tell you a lot of things about compatibility and why you're together. So looking at the cards, you can really predict even next week, but it could change if you change something. So let's say somebody needs to go to counseling, they need to go to therapy, and they're resisting that, but the cards are like, hey, this person needs to go to therapy, right? And so you're looking at the relationship and you're like, it looks like we're gonna break up. I'm just gonna leave the partnership, and it's showing that you're very unhappy. And then it shows, hey, if they'll get counseling, or you'll get counseling or something, right? There could be a change. And then it shows, yeah, hey, if that change is made, then this relationship has a lot of potential. Right? But there has to be a growth. There has to be a development, right? And that's what the cards are, is they are self-development, but also divination tools, right? So they can be very helpful for you in your life work and your life path. Anybody can use them. Anybody can, because I know that back when I started using them, it took me years, because I had to study the secret societies, I had to study occult, I had to learn how to tap into my clairsentience and all of my different intuitive faculties, which I wasn't natural at all 20 years ago. And so over time I learned different techniques. I went to different mentors, and over time I learned, and now I know the techniques, and that's what I teach everybody, is how to get into that and how to read and how to see the potentials. So again, you can see different paths. You can even pull like a card for, all right, let's pull a card for this, potential outcome, this other potential outcome, and this other potential outcome for the same relationship. And then you could see, hey, this could happen, or this could happen. So you can see some different, very likely potential outcomes of one thing, right? Because there are different potentials. Or you could pull all three and they could all say the same thing. That's possible with the tarot cards. You could say, oh, ending, leaving, and loss. If you got those three, or the Tower, right, which is like shocks and endings, right? If you got those three, it would be like, nope, this relationship has zero potential, right? And a lot of people say that what you think and what you feel plays into what you pull, and yes, it can. But that's why you want to be as objective as possible, and you want to clear yourself and clear the cards when you're reading, and then call in your guides and call in your higher self and just say, hey, I call in my guides and my higher self to come in and give me the best answers for my highest good, right? And then you start pulling cards, and when I pull cards, I always make sure that they're face down, so that way when I pull the next card, I don't see something in the card, and then it influences my thought and my mind, and then pull another card, but pull that card based on that card. It's usually best to pull cards all upside down. You don't see them, they're not influencing you, and then you just keep pulling. And then you read the cards, then you flip them over, right? So anyways, I could give you a ton of tips, but I'm gonna stop there on this video. Thanks so much for watching, and if you like this video, please like, share it with any friends that might be interested in tarot. Please subscribe, and if you click the bell, you'll get notified when I post a new video. It's usually once a week. So thanks so much for watching again, and I'll see you in the next video.